Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Eating a Rainbow of Colours, Bringing the Science into Your Kitchen. I'm Dr. Emma Beckett. I am your host today. I am also a food and nutrition scientist, and I'm thrilled to be hosting because if you know anything about me, you will know that rainbow is my favourite colour. And I'm also very excited about the talks we are going to be hearing today. So today's event is brought to you by Nutrition Research Australia, and it is funded by Hort Innovation using the Mellon Fund Research and Development Levy and contributions from the Australian Government. For those of you who don't know, Hort Innovation is the grower-owned not-for-profit research and development corporation for Australian horticulture. So today we're very lucky to have two presentations from two fabulous presenters. Each will present for about 20 minutes, which will be followed by 15 minutes of Q&A for the two presenters together. Our presenters today are the wonderful Dr. Flavia Fayette-Moore and the wonderful ALICE ZASLAVSKY. ALICE and Flavia are both on Instagram and Twitter. If you would like to tweet along today, Flavia's handle is Dr. Flavs and Alice's handle is Alice in Frames on both Instagram and Twitter. Or if you do a quick Google search, you will surely come up with those handles. So we'd love you to share your learnings and your experience here with us today. During the webinar, you will be able to ask questions in the Q&A box, so don't feel like you need to save your questions to the end. Pop them in at any time. You should also be able to see each other's questions, and you'll be able to upvote questions that have already been asked if you would also like to hear the answer to that question. If we get lots of questions, that will help us pick which ones our fabulous panelists answer. The webinar will be recorded and a link will be sent out at the end of the week with some evaluation and resource links as well. If you fill in the evaluation, you'll go into the draw to win an ALICE ZASLAVSKY book package, which is an absolutely fabulous prize. So please look out for those resources so that you can access that prize draw. So it's now my joy to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Flavia Fayette-Moore, who can be best described with her plethora of experience and qualification as a food and nutrition change maker. Flavia is passionate about improving health, particularly through food and eating. She believes, and she doesn't just believe, she walks this walk as well, that science, technology, and creativity can go a long way to solving the big problems we face globally in health and well-being. And she's dedicated her career to this, which apparently is over 20 years now, which must mean she started when she was 4 years old because she doesn't look a day over 24. And as the CEO of Nutrition Research Australia, she does lead what can only be described as game-changing research as well as education and communications for strategic and meaningful impact. Can you tell I'm a little bit of a Flavia fangirl, so I had a little bit of trouble getting all those words out. But Flavia is definitely more well-spoken than me. So over to you, Flavia. I look forward to your presentation.
Thanks, Emma, for such kind words. For the record, if you're curious, I'm 42. So everyone, good afternoon. It's now lunchtime. It's an absolute pleasure to share your lunchtime with you. I do hope it has color variety, because if it doesn't, after today's webinar, you're going to be seeing color in a whole new light. So as Emma mentioned, at Nutrition Research Australia, we are change makers in global human health and well-being backed by science. We do what we do so we can improve health and benefit humanity. And we cannot do it alone. So we invite you to come along the journey, follow us, tag us, and share this journey on the world's first paper that we have published on the science of color variety. So we all know how difficult it is to get people to eat more fruits and veggies. It's probably the one thing that we keep repeating over and over and over. And there's loads of education programs and campaigns that are aimed at increasing fruits and vegetable intake for people globally. I propose that we shift our language and focus on color variety rather than on amount of fruit and vegetables. I say, let's maybe go for 2 and 5. Now wait, before you start thinking all those red flags, I just want you to hear me out. I'll be showcasing how color variety can actually be a key strategy in getting people to eat more fruit and vegetables. I'm going to take you through the science of color variety, the what, the why, and the how. And by the end of my presentation, you'll have more knowledge on the health benefits associated with color variety and how fruit and melons can be incorporated into the diet as one of many solutions. Now, hands up, who's recommended to eat a rainbow before? I obviously can't see you, but I'm assuming that probably quite a few of us would have put your hand up if we were in person. Now, eating the rainbow, or basically consuming a variety of fruits and vegetables of various colors, has long been embraced by us nutritionists, dietitians, and other health professionals. It's at the cornerstone of a healthy diet, but until recently, no one had actually summarized and synthesized all the evidence of the color pigment research to support this rainbow message. So before I go into the science, I just want to know what you know about color-associated bioactive pigments. In short, the colors in fruits and vegetables. Now, I will be the first to admit that until this project, I knew very little about the specific classes and subclasses and what pigments what, and what bioactives what, and what it does. So if you feel the same way, you're not alone. Despite the science moving forward, the translation into practice is really lagging behind. So let me know what you think. Tell me what's true among those statements about color-associated bioactive or the pigments in fruits and vegetables. Great. Well, I am not going to tell you the results yet. Sorry. I want to first educate you and see who's paying attention later. So let's move forward. Now, almost 20 years ago, can you believe 2003? There was research showing that just less than 0.5% of the antioxidant activity in apples is actually explained by vitamin C. Most is actually explained by the phenolics and flavonoids, or the bioactives, the non-nutrient components in the apple. While the nutritional component is important, so your fiber, the carbohydrates in it, and the energy and the sugars, much of the health benefits in that apple actually come from those bioactives. It doesn't come from the nutrients. These bioactive substances are very abundant in plant foods. There's actually more than 10,000 of them. Some people call them phytonutrients, others non-nutrients, others phytochemical. But I really like the term bioactives because it implies bio. You know, it's the effect that it has in the body. It's not comparing it to a nutrient. Half the problem I think we have is that we're trying to put bioactives in the box of nutrients. And by comparing to them, we're not seeing the true effect that bioactives can have on health. One of my pet peeves is when people just say, oh, it's high in antioxidants. That's what we say to consumers, but they now understand what antioxidant is. It's now time that we talk about all the other properties that bioactives have. Yes, they have antioxidant capacity, but they also have anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, antifungal, anti-allergenic, chemoprotective, neuroprotective, hypolipidemic, hypotensive. You got the point. It's now time that we learn a little bit more so we can talk a little bit more about these bioactives beyond just saying it's high in antioxidants. So here's the 101 very briefly. There's 4 classes of bioactive pigments. Now, I did talk about there were 10,000 different bioactives. Not all bioactives have color. What gives fruits and vegetables the vibrant color are the pigments associated with color, and they can be classified into 4 different classes. So they're carotenoids, flavonoids, betalains, and chlorophylls. As you can see, each color comes from one or more bioactive classes or multiple bioactive classes. For example, you can see that there's yellow in betalains, flavonoids, and carotenoids, and there's also red in betalains, flavonoids, and carotenoids. So one color is not associated with just one bioactive class. You're probably also wondering, where is quercetin? Well, it's a flavanol, so it's a subclass of the flavanol. Or perhaps, where is chlorogenic acid or resveratrol? Well, those two don't actually have pigment, so they're not here. So our review and our research on the color of the science of color is all related to the pigments naturally found in fruits and vegetables, because we want to recommend whole foods. We don't want a whole new line of bioactive supplements being launched. So the verdict, it is indeed true that we should recommend to eat a rainbow of fruits and vegetables to reap the health benefits. Our world first review is open access. Everyone can access it freely. And it was published in June this year. 83 systematic literature reviews with meta-analyses of cohort studies and RCTs, data from over 37 million people. We had 1,000 downloads of the paper within the 3 days it was published before it was even indexed in PubMed, just to show how relevant this area of research is. Our review found there are indeed many health benefits associated with consuming the pigments, but it's important to note that we only included studies that had the systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So there may be other health benefits not in our paper that actually exist. For example, depression. There might not be a review yet that has systematically reviewed the science on the bioactive pigments and related it to a health outcome. So what were the health outcomes? Where you can scan the QR code there and access the paper, or you can just refer to this image that we created for you. So for the people that are very visual like myself, that do want the summary of the paper without having to read the nitty-gritty detail, basically what we have here is all the different bioactive classes and subclasses. So the carotenoids is a major class, and then the rest are all subclasses. And carotenoids is the only major class that had review on it as a class specifically, hence why it's there. So as you can see, you've got the classes, you've got the color it's associated with, examples of fruits and vegetables of those colors, the health effects, and also the grade level of evidence, the level of certainty that we have around the evidence that we've reviewed. So for some bioactive classes, like chlorophyll, you can see that there's unique health benefits to it. And for others, there's crossover. So basically what this figure is showing is that by eating a variety of colors, you can improve cholesterol, hypertension, inflammatory markers, glycemic control, anthropometric measures like BMI and body weight, cognitive functioning, exercise performance, and also reduce the risk of cancers, hip fracture, preeclampsia, cataracts, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and all-cause mortality. If you're not convinced yet, I hope by now you are convinced on eating the rainbow. And the other interesting fact that came from the paper, as I mentioned with chlorophyll and seasonal rhinitis, is that 6 of the 8 colors actually had unique health effects. So health effects that weren't found in any of the other 6 colors. The exception was red and yellow that had overlap. So the research confirms that the benefit of color variety is important. And it's important beyond just having total serves of fruits and vegetables. It's great that you're having 5 cups of broccoli, but it's better if you have 5 cups of fruits and vegetables of different colors. That's really what we're trying to say here. Now, what we know also from other color research is that the more colors we see, the more we actually eat. A number of studies are showing this, and it can lead to greater intake. There's a lot of research in confectionery, which is super interesting, showing that the more color you're served of confectionery, for example, lollies or jelly beans, than a single color, the more that you'll eat. In one research study, they show that adults who were offered 6 different flavors of jelly beans in a single bowl ate more than if those colors were offered in separate bowls, even if it was their favorite jelly bean color. So mine is orange. So if you're given just orange, I'd still eat less than if you gave me the rainbows and maybe picked out the whites, which I really don't like. Because people eat with their eyes, and their eyes trick their stomachs, which was beautifully a quote from Brian Wensick in an interview. And it's called the buffet effect. We all know it. We eat more when there's a buffet. But can this strategy be actually used to increase fruits and vegetables? And I say it sure can. The evidence is there. Research shows that prompting individuals to eat colorful meals facilitates healthier food choices. Not only is it effective, but it's also realistic, and it's super easy to follow. Dietary guidelines in Australia and around the world have complex goals that we've got to translate to consumers. age, sex, energy needs, macronutrients, food groups. It's a lot of information to have to translate and get someone to eat really well. And research shows that prompting individuals to just eat a colorful meal increases the proportions of healthy foods consumed compared to typical meals that they would have chosen otherwise. Not only that, but perceived color variety. It's not even if they actually ate color variety, but if they perceived that there was color variety, it was related to the increased intake of vegetables and a decreased intake of sugary foods. Therefore, my argument is that eating color seems to be a promising way not only to help people eat more intuitively, but also more healthily. And it's needed because research shows that not only are we not eating enough fruits and vegetables, but we're not getting enough color variety either. The research, the bioactive color gap, is really the difference between people meeting their fruit and vegetable intakes and those that don't. And people who are meeting their fruit and vegetable intakes are getting color variety. So I suggest we flip it upside down and suggest color variety to get them having the serves of fruits and vegetables, not the other way around. So by increasing color variety, we can help encourage overall fruit and vegetable intake, which you all want, but then help people derive the benefit from those color-associated bioactives, which was unique. So now let's revisit that poll and see what you've learned. Trivia time. It's a sneaky way for me to find out who's been following the rainbow. So is chlorophyll a bioactive pigment? Does each color come from a unique class? Do some colors have unique health effects? The health benefits of color variety go beyond those of just eating fruits and veg. And the more color we eat, the healthier our food choices are. And close the poll. Let's see. All right, so chlorophyll indeed is a green bioactive pigment. Each color does not come from a unique bioactive class. As you've seen, it comes from a range of different classes. Some colors have unique health benefits, correct? Health benefits of color variety go beyond those of just eating fruits and vegetables. It goes beyond total serves and it goes beyond the nutrients in fruits and vegetables, correct? Love to see that 90% of you got that right. And the more color we eat, the healthier food choices are. Well done, everyone. So what can we do? Okay, we know that science is there. What can we actually do to translate it? From a top-down approach, I think it's important, and we hope that the dietary guidelines would include more guidance and inspiration on this, especially given that it's being revised. We also need to measure education campaigns and develop education campaigns that look on color variety and increasing color variety, because the science to inform it is there already, to hopefully facilitate and help people have more color variety in their diet. From a bottom-up approach, so us as health professionals sharing the message, I think we can recommend a variety of color daily. I challenge you to do it yourself, but also recommend to your clients to look from where you purchase your food and gather food, if it's in the home, or your veggie garden or the supermarket, all the way to when you're sitting down and having the meal. What does your shopping cart look like? Is it colorful? What does your fridge look like? How much color is there? And in the freezer too. What about in your pantry, on your plate, or even when you're chopping and preparing your meal? Just think about how much color variety there. And that effect actually works. Last night, I had the most beautiful rainbow salad because my husband has been listening to me practice this presentation. And intuitively, we had the most colorful salad we've ever had in our life last night. It's amazing how such a simple trick can really result in change in behavior. The other interesting aspect on this is that there's a fog behavior model, and the model emphasizes that the likelihood of changing behavior can be increased by reducing the complexity and difficulty. The color of food might be something quite easy for us to implement because it's already a visual cue that we have when we choose food. We look for vibrant colors innately. So it's a nice way to use something that we already do, but just put more emphasis on it to help translate more meal color variety, perceived or real, a natural visual cue for healthier food choices. So another poll, out of curiosity, would you recommend adding fruit specifically to increase color variety. And close the poll. Let's see. Yes, awesome. 94% would recommend fruit. This is my argument. I just want you to think about fruit as well. Fruit is often forgotten as a healthful strategy. 1 in 2 Australians aren't getting enough fruit either. And sometimes we put more focus on vegetables as the hero fruit, when both fruits and vegetables are part of the rainbow. From a color perspective, it's a nice way to get bitter, the green color, which is often associated with bitter vegetables that children and not many adults like. So it's overcoming that bitterness barrier potentially. Convenient, we all know if you chop up fruit, people eat it, especially if you do a platter and a rainbow of fruit, they eat it even more. And it's tasty because it has sugar. And sometimes fruit gets demonized because it does have natural sugars because we're thinking of nutrients only. We're not thinking of all the bioactives the fruit has. Fruit has the same nutrients that you can find in vegetables, and it has the same bioactive colors that you can find in vegetables. So perhaps they can be combined rather than separated, and it might make our messaging a lot easier as well. Another thing, and hear me out on this, that we can just add melons as a fruit to help solve the color variety problem in our meals. Now look how colorful they are and how beautiful they look here. And I'm going to tell you the reasons. Before I tell you the reasons, I want to know, what do you know about melons? Because a lot of this, I actually didn't know the details on either. And please answer, but I'm not telling you straight away again. I'm going to leave you hanging for a little bit longer to take you through. And we'll close the poll. Alrighty, so most of you think that it does have a lot of water. Not many of you think it has less sugars than blueberries. Not many of you at all think it's high GI. And the majority think it's got 5 versus 3 colors. Okay, great, interesting. Now, melons are a great example of a fruit that can help with color variety. It provides all the colors that we've been talking about, except with purple and blue across its range of melons. Again, think about chlorophyll. You know, we often get caught up on that sugars content, but melons actually don't have a lot of sugars. It actually has less sugars than blueberries. And I'll show you the amount in the next slide. Another fun fact, which Alice is going to be showing you, is that you can actually eat the rind of the watermelon too. I didn't know that. You can actually eat it and you can cook it like a stir fry, and you'll see what it looks like soon. Melons, because they have all those different colors, it allows you to reap the benefits of the color associated pigments and the health benefits associated with them. So what I've done here is just summarized all the different classes of the bioactive pigments that are found in melons and the different health effects. So you can see there's 10 different health effects that you can have by just adding melons to boost color variety. Of course, it's just one solution of many, but we believe there's reason to believe how it's a really cool and easy solution to add color to your plate. Here's 5 more reasons to add melons to boost color variety. It actually does have half a cup of water, so it's really important for hydration, especially as we're coming into summer. It only has between 8.8 to 10.4 grams of sugars per serving, 150 grams, you can see on the right, which is actually less than the serving for blueberries and the sugars in blueberries, which I thought was really surprising. Everyone thinks like melons are high in sugar, but they're actually not. They're also low GI and they're low GL and moderate GI. So they don't cause a sugar spike. And they also contain citrulline and arginine, which are powerful vasodilators found in watermelon. It's also, honeydew is a fruit source of chlorophyll, and we can start thinking about that to get the color green in the diet. So going back to that poll that we had, let's see if we can increase the number of people that know the facts about melons. Which one of these are true? I actually didn't tell you the last one, so I can debunk that myth now. So It's correct. It's true. Half a cup of water. It's also correct that it has less sugars than blueberries. It's actually low GI. It's incorrect that it's high GI. Nice to see only one person selected that. It contains 5 different colors. Amazing. And watermelon actually has more lycopene than tomatoes. So tomatoes gets the limelight because it's just everywhere. But actually watermelon has 40% more lycopene than tomatoes do. Now, what do you recommend after hearing all that? To add melons to improve color variety? Yes, 100% would. It's a really cool strategy. You'll see why. Now, I just want to show a personal example of why color variety message sticks. So on the left, it's my daughter. She's been hearing me doing this rainbow research for a while now. So the rainbow message stuck with her. She's drawing rainbows. She loves them. But then she started drawing fruits and veggies within the rainbow. And not only that, in her lunchbox, when we packed it together, she said, "Mommy, we're missing white and we're missing purple." So then we put in the 2 slices of mushrooms in there and the kale salad, which she loves. We've exposed her to everything. She actually does eat all this. And we completed the rainbow. So just so simple, but potentially a really easy way to get everyone of every life stage eating more fruits and vegetables. And if you're wondering what those ants are, they're not real. They're like plastic little ants in our lunchbox. So what are the take-home messages? That color variety from fruits and vegetables is important for health. It's just as important, potentially more important than total amount, you could argue. The health benefits exist beyond just looking at nutrients. I think we need to move on from the mentality of nutrient boxes and look at plant foods and the bioactives that it offers, which may have health effects that are stronger than those associated with just the nutrient profile of the food. And you can just add melons to help boost color variety as well. So we would love for you to connect. I would love to thank my fellow NROs nerds who performed this review and co-authors, led particularly by Dr. Michelle Blumfield, and the rest of the team that worked on translating this rainbow message: Yuda, Dr. Carlene Stark, Tim, Kylie, and Dr. Patrice Jones. Thank you to everyone, because this message is not mine, it's our whole team's.
Thank you so much, Flavia. I'm sure there are awkward solo rounds of applause happening in offices all over the country. Brilliant presentation. I loved it. It was 3 of my favorite things: food, rainbow, and of course you. So thank you so much for that. Everyone who is watching along, please do remember we'll do Q&A at the end, but you can enter your questions at any time. Thank you for those who have already, and we'll come back for questions for Flavia at the end. We've had a couple of people ask, will the slides be sent along with the video recording? And the answer is yes. So you will be able to access all those fabulous references and resources that Flavia has referenced today. And I love the message, Flavia, of flipping it from how much to all the colors, because it, for me, takes away the chore of choices and brings back the joy of eating, as does adding fruit to savory dishes, which I think we'll see some of that with Alice now, which is the perfect segue to Alice, joy and things I love, because that is what Alice is all about. She is about bringing the joy back to cooking. She is the friendliest voice in food in Australia, and she connects cooks at home and helps them connect food and the people they love. She's an award winner. She's a writer of cookbooks and columns. She does media. She's a broadcaster. She is the champion of the humble fruit and the humble vegetables. And she brings out flavor, community, and conversations in kitchens all around the world. If you haven't seen her books, you need to look at them. Make sure, fill in that evaluation form for a chance to win some of them. In Praise of Veg is probably my absolute favorite cookbook that I have ever seen in my life. It is a beautiful celebration of food and color. It won all kinds of awards and has been translated into many, many languages. Alice now has a new cookbook, which is probably even more fabulous, that's about the joy of cooking. So please check those out, and I hope you enjoy what Alice is going to bring you today. You'll be able to see Alice all over the media, but we are so lucky to have her here with us today to share her joys and her knowledge of how to bring these colors back to the table. So thank you, Alice, and over to you.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you also to Flavia. What an incredible presentation. I don't have any polls as part of this, but if I did, I'd have one, and it just says, do you want to eat this? Yes or no? And I think by the end of these 20 minutes, you will all be clicking yes, and you'll all be adding more melons into your life. I am coming to you from Wurundjeri country and paying my respects to elders past, present, and emerging wherever I find you around the country as well. Thank you for joining. I am thrilled. As Emma said, you might have seen me on News Brekkie this morning, hence the look, but I was talking about the benefits of olive oil. And if you think about even drizzling some olive oil over a little bit of watermelon to increase the bioavailability of that lycopene, then that's a really easy way to start thinking about what you can do with this fruit in a savory capacity. Now, I've created some dishes for you, and you might be wondering, how are we going to see this? Are we going to get some share cam action? Nay, I'm going to switch cameras to show you this spread. So as you can see, I've created a couple of different salads, or a number of different salads, to show you how, just by shifting your mindset and shifting, sort of thinking about ingredients that you would commonly see together, and then connecting, for example, honeydew or piel de sapo has similar properties to cucumber or zucchini. Cucumber is a melon, so it's the same sort of thing. So if you switch that around, instead of putting cucumber into a carpaccio or into a fresh, zippy coriander, pesto and cherry tomato salad, I've popped some honeydew in there, and that's over here. So you've got your red and green, which should always be seen, particularly for the festive spread. And if you want to make that coriander pesto at home, you can actually make it plant-based. So it's a combination of lime juice, coriander, peanuts, some soy sauce or fish sauce, depending on whether you want to keep it fully planty, or if you can use your fish sauce that you've already got in the pantry. And then underneath, thinly sliced, I've just thinly sliced the honeydew, but you can use piel de sapo as well, both really firm, sweet, delicious green or yellow melons. Underneath that, in a really, really fine sort of slice, cherry tomatoes halved, a good glug of olive oil to finish, and some, lime cheeks, because why not? Now, moving right along, thinking about combinations that go really well together, if there's one melon that really sings as a savory, it's rock melon or cantaloupe. So normally the way that you would see it as a combination is cantaloupe with jamon or prosciutto. So I've taken that kind of smoky, meaty earthiness, and I've pulled out the meat and put in paprika in oil form and sprinkled over the top. So the way to infuse an oil is to essentially raise the temperature. So I use a combination of olive oil, half and half olive oil and grapeseed, and plenty of paprika sprinkled into the bottom of the pan, and then just bring it up to sort of a warm, before the boil temperature, and then let that infuse for around, let's say, 30 minutes if you can wait, 15 if you can't. Just try and let that cool as much as possible, and then at the very last minute, give it a really good drizz. I've popped some goat's cheese on that, but you don't have to. You can just use, keep it all planty, or you can use an almond feta if you wanted to as well. Or if you were making this for your family and you are omnivorous, then you could put the jamon back in if you wanted to as well, or shred some prosciutto through. Again, shape-wise and color-wise, as Flavia mentioned, you eat with your eyes. So the reason for me using so much color and fruit and veg in my cooking is because it makes it really easy for people to want to dig in. Color is something that we're attracted to as both eaters and cooks. So if you look at something like this, the way that I've created that, I'll see what happens if this blows it out, but have a look at all the different colors that I've used here. So I've created a base, and you can start with, this kind of orangey look, or again, you could use the piel de sapo. You could even probably use watermelon in this if you wanted to. And then the purple, the red, the anthocyanin of those Spanish onions. Herbs are kind of like the jewelry of the vegetable kingdom. So I've used dill, but you could use parsley if you wanted to. And then cracked pepper, salt, the goat's cheese, and obviously the sprinkle of the paprika. So just be thinking, whenever you're putting a dish together, the way that I like to try and teach people to be intuitive, and there's actually a whole section in this in The Joy of Better Cooking, is that you want to kind of build texture, flavor, and color. So if you are always asking yourself, what's missing? You know, the Italians do it so well. They're always trying to create that tricolore, you know, the white, the red and the green. So what's missing from this dish that can round out the color spectrum? Just like Flavia's little girl, you know, let's try and encourage people to be thinking about a rainbow, both as cooks and as eaters. Now, this is actually the salad that I use in Joy to try and encourage people to think about all the different shapes and textures and colors that they can incorporate into a dish. And it's got watermelon in it. Now, my tip for you, whenever you're cooking with watermelon or using watermelon in a dish, even in a fruit salad, is to keep the watermelon separate rather than putting it all together. So kind of assemble right at the last minute, because watermelon is so juicy, so full of water, that as soon as you add it to something, it starts to kind of collapse and kind of you lose the beautiful kind of abundant spectrum of color that you see in a salad like this one. So this is the vinaigrette salad. Again, it's got like a splash of gin in it, but you don't have to put that in. You can just use lemon juice instead, lemon zest. And the dressing has some white wine vinegar in it. But again, if you had Chardonnay vinegar or apple cider vinegar, you could use that as well. Good glug of olive oil, again, to really kind of encourage that lycopene to go in and around you. And then plenty of fresh herbs. So now that I've actually kind of revealed my secrets, it's like peeking behind the magical door of recipe development, I think you can probably agree that now you can see that back to that learning of, you know, the jewelry with the herbs, something creamy, whether it's a cheese or even a nut, and the crunch of the watermelon with the cucumber as well. So that's the watermelon vinaigrette salad, which you will be receiving a recipe for as well. And I look forward to seeing how you go with that. But what do you do with the rind? Well, most of the time the rind goes in the compost, but I'm going to show you 2 different ways to use watermelon rind that are probably going to blow your mind. The first one, you'll be like, yeah, I've seen that before. However, I'm going to give you a really good tip for a watermelon rind pickle. First things first, the reason why you can use watermelon rind, if you think about it like any other kind of melon, cucumber, we use the skin. Watermelon just has a thicker skin, but you can use it in similar ways. So you can pickle it, but you still want to keep the crunch. And if you've ever tried to pickle watermelon rind before and found that it was kind of a bit flaccid, what really helps is to cure it overnight in salt. So you basically pop the watermelon rind with most of the sort of green stuff taken off. I'll show you. So you take off the main kind of green and you keep just the white, thicker, pithy bit, and then chop it up finely into these kind of little julienne battens, I suppose, and cure it in the salt overnight. And then it's a 1-to-1 vinegar solution, some sugar and some salt. And if you want to, you can add some spices and aromats to that. So I've got some fennel seeds, some chili, and some black pepper in that. But it's up to you what you choose to incorporate into your pickle. So that's one way. And that might be something that is revolutionary to you if you've never seen it before. I hope you do try it. This is brilliant to put into sandwiches. You know, think about anywhere that you'd put a pickle, use this. Salads really benefit from a watermelon pickle. In fact, I could even put watermelon pickle into that watermelon salad, and that would be such a fantastic conversation starter for my guests. And now, speaking of conversation starters, I think this is going to be the moment where you take out your phones and take a photo of the screen, because if you have not tried to stir fry watermelon rind, have I got news for you. So you're going to take off the green bits again, and you're just going to keep that thick white rind. And then you're going to create this dish, which I'm going to bring forward for you. Bring forth. So this is a watermelon rind sancho bao, which I know sounds wild, but again, remember, a bit cucumbery. You can totally stir fry cucumber as well, or zucchini. So you're going to first let that watermelon rind, which is quite spongy, infuse with the garlic and the ginger and the lapchong sausage. Now, again, if you want to keep it plant-based, you can use marinated tempeh, just crumble that in. And then once it's infused, so about 30 minutes again, you're going to stir fry it really, really high heat until it really starts to absorb and develop color. Be bold. You want some of that charred kind of flavor. And then you're going to add your sauce, which is oyster sauce, soy sauce, and sesame oil. That's it. Toss it all together until it's this gorgeous syrupy look. I'm going to bring this up again for you to have a look at. Gosh, it smells so good. I just wish that I could pass this along to each and every one of you in the session. So this is then going to be tossed together with some Chang's fried noodles, or you don't have to include those if you want to keep it gluten-free. You can just go double on the bean sprouts, and then you're going to add some peanuts and some chili and some coriander to finish. And that is the dish. And then because I've popped it into a little lettuce leaf, it's got that extra crunch. It's fun to eat. Your kids will love it. And the thing is, you don't have to tell them that it's made of watermelon rind, but I encourage you to do that, because there's something to be said for not hiding vegetables and fruits, rather heroing them and celebrating them, because we should be finding opportunities to incorporate more fruit, more veg into our cooking instead of trying to sneak them in there. And the only way that we can do that is by making delicious food that is as good to eat with our eyes as it is with our mouths, and as good feeling as it is to be cooking it as well. So I'm going to give you plenty of time for questions as well. I'm going to show you one last thing, which is a little bit of like a play on words, which is my favorite kind of recipe. This is the honeydew and honey splice. So I've just whizzed them together with some mint. You can do that with piel de sapo as well, or in fact, any melon, let's face it. You could even do this with cucumber too, if you wanted to add another green component to it. So honeydew, honey, mint, maybe some lemon if you wanted to as well. And that is just a really nice, refreshing drink to serve up with everything else. I like to set myself a challenge. So, 20 minutes to show you 5 different dishes. I think 6 different dishes. I think we've gone all right, but I'm sure you've got plenty of questions for me. So please do fire them at me, and I'll make sure to get these recipes onto alice.recipes for you to try as well at home.
Emma? Oh my gosh, Alice, thank you.
you.
And that answers one of the questions in the chat already, is can we get these recipes? So check out Alice's website to access those. I hope you are all eating your lunch as you do this lunchtime webinar at home. I'm obviously not, as I'm on hosting duties, and that made me very hungry. And in case you are thinking that the watermelon stir-fry recipe is bizarre and just a thing that a cook person would tell you, I make watermelon stir-fry for my family, and they did not know that there was anything odd in it the first time I made it for them. They thought it was perhaps some kind of fancy Asian vegetable. So definitely give that one a try. It is something really fun and a great way to get fruit into savory, and a great way to reduce your carbon footprint and your waste. So love it. Alice, thank you so much. That was so joyful. Absolutely everything we wanted. So we now are going to do joint question time for Dr. Flavs and Alice together. And we've had several questions come through. And I will be sharing those questions with you now. Flavia, this is maybe more a question for you, but Alice, do jump in as well. Someone's asked, do we need specific types of fruit and vegetables for different age groups? Would there be a different rainbow for different age groups, or is Eat the Rainbow one age regardless message that we can share with everyone?
I guess if you're trying to get color variety in the diet, then color variety across all life stages makes sense. Because just like eating a variety of food, which is in our guideline recommendation, kind of sorts out the specific that you need for age and sex, I think color, there is no specific color that you might need for a specific age group, but we don't know yet. Like, I mean, the more we research this and then have more health outcomes, that maybe, the lower risk of hip fracture in elderly with a specific color, then maybe want them eating more of that color. Or so there could be tweaks around that. I don't think the science is there yet. I think the key is to just get people eating it. And the way we can get people eating it is by adding color. But it would be really nice if we get specifics later on as the science on color and variety advances and the translation advances along with it.
And Emma, I've just completed and shared the Tiny Tasters series with Radio National, which Flavia very graciously graced us with her presence for, and it's all about the ages and stages of eating. So it's 6 episodes from preconception all the way through to older age. And if there's one thing that all of the health professionals could agree on throughout the series, it's that eating fruit and vegetables widely, or eating widely in general, is the best pathway to overall health.
Absolutely agree. The next question is, I guess, checking on the way we frame this message, because there is a well-known candy that uses the Eat the Rainbow slogan. Do we need to add natural or some other term to encourage people to eat the rainbow of actual food and not discretionary food?
I think that's just the tweaking in the message, right? Eat a variety of colors from fruits and vegetables. So that kind of touches on the whole, are we going to start getting multi-bioactive supplements? Probably, it's how we work in society. But we also know from the confectionery evidence that the more colors, so you will eat more Skittles if they're mixed than if they were individual. So I think as long as our messaging is around eat a variety of color from fruits and vegetables and have visual imagery with that, I think that's the message. Of course, there'll be, you add artificial colors here and there, but that's not a big deal. It's only a big deal if you're not getting the variety of color from fruits and vegetables. It's all part of our diet. And the more we eat color and variety from fruits and vegetables, the less we have to worry about the rest.
Awesome. Now, the next question is about affordability. And I made a deliberate choice today. I actually have multiple fruit salad dresses. And one of them is a very bright tropical fruit salad dress, which is probably your more expensive fruits. And this is my more humble fruit salad dress with your watermelon and your oranges and the pineapple. Question on affordability and affordability influencing our fruit and veg choices. Alice, you are the champion of the humble fruits and veg. Can you reassure people that they can make these recommendations with affordable fruits and veg and not those fancy tropical ones?
Well, I think the key is seasonality. So there's a time and a place and a region for tropical fruits too. People are joining from all over the country. So for you, sometimes, you might find piel de sapo far more inexpensively than you will find capsicum. So it's about kind of eating with the seasons, which is the most affordable way to do it. But also it's about bang for buck. So you might buy, say, a watermelon. Let's not go watermelon. Let's go a cantaloupe. So you're going to buy that cantaloupe for $4 to $5, let's say, because it's in season and it's on special. You're not just going to get one dish out of that. You're maybe going to get 2 to 3 dishes out of that cantaloupe, which then explodes your food cost kind of affordability, because exponentially you can kind of have that as the hero of one dish. You can have it as an accent in another. You can basically make a 3-course feast with that one cantaloupe. So it's actually, I think, about reframing some of what we understand about the value of food and about what it can do for us as well. So it's about understanding that fruit and vegetables are not discretionary or auxiliary additions, that they're not a luxury, that they're actually something that can be, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the superhero of the dish.
And I'll add to that as well, Emma, from a scientific perspective, we've actually done research looking at the nutrient to cost ratios, and fruits and veggies score high. Like they're cost effective for the nutrients you get. And, and that's not taking into account all the bioactives. And the top scoring nutrient to cost ratio was fruit juice. Again, it's important for us to think about that in fruit juice, there's more to it than just the sugars and the lack of fiber. There's a bioactive too as a color. So just planting a seed.
Amazing. So all about bang for buck and still getting the color. I love it.
Yeah. So it's fruits and vegetables, right? As long as we're eating fruits and vegetables, you're getting the variety in color, then you can't really go wrong.
Yeah. And you don't have to buy a whole melon either. So if you are a household of 2, or if you're speaking with one of your clients and they're sort of saying, I don't know if I can afford a watermelon, don't buy a whole watermelon, buy a quarter. I actually prefer to buy it that way, because then I can sniff out the sweetest ones. And if you see little sugar cracks in that watermelon, that tells you that that's the one to grab.
That is good advice. I like that, Alice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next question, someone has asked a pretty straightforward question. What color is banana considered as? Is it white? Is it yellow? But I think I'm going to broaden that into a larger question. When people are looking for these colors, if they're not eating the skin, does that color still count? Are we looking at the insides only or the outsides as well?
Yeah, I think you're looking at what you're actually going to eat. So there is some chlorophyll or green in banana when it's unripe, but that gets broken down during the ripening process, so you don't get green. So it's really white. But I also want you to think about that it's the classes of bioactives that are doing all the health benefit, right? Color is the visual cue. And in some berries, there might be more purple or more pink than others. And in some apples, you might get green, yellow, and red, and others just green. So it's a range, right? It's a color spectrum, and there's not one color. It's usually a range of colors, and there are colors that you might not even see that are part of that spectrum. It's really interesting. You start looking at color in a new light, right? I promise you.
I love it. I love it. The next question is about the salad and adding the olive oil. And I'm going to tie it in with another question that follows on the salad. So there is studies that show that adding the olive oil with the tomatoes helps with the absorption of the lycopene. Does that still work when it's raw in a salad? And if people are making those salads in advance, do they need to be concerned about any loss of bioactive or vitamin power?
I can semi-answer that from what I know. I don't think it makes a difference if it's cooked or not in terms of absorbing bioactives, because it's fat soluble. So it will get absorbed via fat, just like vitamins A, D, E, K. Not all bioactives are fat soluble, some are water soluble. So I think the loss, don't worry about that. Complex, too much detail, just worry about eating color. The nitty gritty, like, yes, as nutrition scientists, we want to know. Because, if you get asked, you want to know the answer, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's just like iron absorption. If you're meeting your RDI, do you really need to know if it's plant-based or not and how much? Like the nitty gritty, the RDI takes that into account, right? We just don't have an RDI for bioactives, but maybe we shouldn't actually call it RDI. Maybe it should be something totally different.
And then
so worrying about that's more tinkering around the edges.
Yeah, but it will, I think, to answer the question, yes, I don't think it makes a difference. But I don't think there would be even research on that. I'm not sure.
And then as far as like from a cook's perspective, what we do know is that as soon as you add the oil, you start to sort of drag down some of those water molecules. So I would be leaving the dressing off until the very last minute. And yes, you will lose, even just from taste experience, restaurant food tastes different to home food. They need to add more stuff to it, because as soon as you start to cut into fruit and vegetables and mess around with them, the more it's touched, the longer that it's kind of been away from its natural source, the less nutrient dense it is. Flavia, nod if you agree. So what that means is that if you are creating these salads in advance, try and kind of do it just before you leave the house, or as I mentioned, keep the watermelon separate. Just kind of think like a chef when you're doing your mise en place, and put it all together at the very last minute for optimum appearance and taste experience anyway.
Yeah, and from studying sunlight and vitamins point of view, maybe keep it in an opaque container while you drive to the barbecue in the car, so the sunlight isn't depleting anything. But again, probably the difference between choosing fruit and veg that have been prepared earlier versus not choosing fruit and veg, the rainbow is still good regardless. This is not a question, but a comment which I would love to share with everyone. Banana peels, vegan pulled pork made with banana peels, in the same vein as the watermelon one. Alice, have you done anything with banana peels before?
Heck yes, I have. So we did a banana skin curry earlier in the year in the cookery column in the Weekend Oz. And it was kind of, I think that we set ourselves up for some questions, because we did a banana peel curry with lentils and kale. And what I've learned now, having done the column for the year, is that maybe I could do one of those things in a dish and then let the rest of it be more familiar and more appealing. So it was actually a really delicious dish. And when you cook banana skin, it kind of starts to break down and becomes quite slippery, a bit like eggplant, and very neutral in flavor. So it's really worth trying. And you could definitely do a banana peel stir fry just as much. You could blanch the banana peel and then stir fry it in a sanchoy bao easily.
Amazing. Alice, you've blown some minds today. There's people who I know have degrees in this who have their mind blown about they've been avoiding the cracked watermelons. They did not know that was how to choose the good ones. So all those little things are all going to add up to bring more joy. So thank you for sharing that, Kylie. This is a really great question, I think. So we hear a lot about frozen, canned fruit and veg having as many nutrients in them as fresh. Does that still apply to the bioactives and the non-nutrient compounds?
I think, Emma, that's a question for you. Go for it.
I think for some the answer is yes, and for some the answer is no. So some will change forms when they are processed, and we do things like the blanching and the treatments that make them safe in the can. But if they're things like frozen fruit that still look as rainbow, probably just as many bioactive pigments in them. If it's something like canned asparagus, which has lost a little bit of its greenness, you've probably had some that's been leached out into those waters and brines that those are stored into. But again, I would say definitely eating fruit and veg is good regardless of those losses. So I wouldn't be agonizing over that.
It's the same with obviously the nutrients, right? There's some nutrients that like vitamin C, which I call like high maintenance because you look at it, it degrades. So there's some that, yes, light and cutting and refrigerating will start degrading, but there are others like the minerals that doesn't matter what you do with it, it doesn't change. Like that's why an iron cast pan, it's iron and like it doesn't change by freezing or doing anything to it actually. So the answer is some change in terms of nutrients, others don't. Bioactives, probably the same. At the end of the day, don't worry about it.
I'm loving that the overall message is just stress less and go ahead and eat that rainbow.
And enjoy your rainbow plates. Yeah.
Were you going to add something there, Alice? Sorry.
Oh yes, I was just going to say, as a cook, I've always got frozen veg in the freezer as well, and I am thinking color. So if I'm making a pasta and I feel like it's really flat, I will go and get corn or peas and I'll add those in, and just half a cup or a cup. Again, you're getting that nutrient value, but eating with the eyes, it just makes the dish look better too.
Or maybe you might have some leftover watermelon because you bought one that was too big. Chop it up, freeze it. Or make juice and put in ice cubes and then pop into a cool drink for summer with some herbs or mint, right? So it's just about ideas and getting creative with it, and reducing food waste at the same time.
Spectacular. Well, I am very mindful that some of you are joining today on your lunch break, so I do want to wrap up on the hour. So I do now want to thank ALICE ZASLAVSKY and Dr. Flavia Fayette-Moore for their presentations today. I can't stop smiling myself. I found that so joyful and informative and fun, so I hope that you did too. Gary, if I can have the slide with the QR code on it, thank you. So if you scan this QR code, it will take you to the Anna Ros Mellons Hub, where you can download the research papers and other resources from today, and should also take you to the link for the webinar evaluation, and that will be sent out in the email as well. As I said, you've got a chance to win Alice's cookbook bundle. Maybe you have them all already because they are fabulous, but they make good Christmas gifts, so make sure you enter that draw. You will, as we said, get the recordings, the slides, the links to some of those recipes that Alice shared today. And we are so very grateful for your time today. We have one last poll for you. We've made you do the work with us today. I hope you've enjoyed that. The last question is, did you learn something new in today's webinar? I certainly did, and I was part of the preparation, so I hope you did too. Let's give you a sec to answer that. And we'll close that one when you're ready. And everyone said yes. That's so wonderful. I mean, it wouldn't be terrible if you knew all that already. We'd invite you to give the next webinar, but we are so glad that you learned something today. I learned many things myself. And I wish we had a poll that asked if you were happy after today, because I really do think that webinar brought the joy back into eating and eating the rainbow for me. So thank you again to our wonderful presenters today, and thank you to our sponsors for allowing us to bring this information together and share this information with you. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Emma.